Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. On this program, I want to talk about Vladimir Putin, the Prime Minister of Russia. And does he have what it takes to start World War III? A few weeks ago, I did a program on the mysterious cloud that appeared over Moscow. And a YouTuber pointed out to me that this cloud appeared on the birthday of Vladimir Putin. I believe this cloud was a warning from God, not only to the rest of the world, but also to Putin himself, not to start World War III. As you know, I have done several programs that Barack Obama is the last king of the South. On this program, I want to talk about how Vladimir Putin is the last king of the North, as found in Daniel chapter number 11. We are going to look at two different versions of chapter number 11, the Douay-Rheims Catholic version and the King James version. Although they are practically the same, there are several important differences which we need to understand in order to ascertain whether Putin is this last king of the North. And I should also mention that these 18 descriptions of the last king of the North indicate a precursor of the Antichrist, because of course 18 is a combination of 6 plus 6 plus 6. Now in this first verse, Daniel writes, "And the king shall do according to his will." And the King James is almost the same. "And the king shall do according to his will." Certainly, Vladimir Putin can do just about anything he wants in Russia. And his second attribute, "And he shall be lifted up and magnify himself against every god," in the King James. "And he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god." Now, every god in this case would not mean the God of gods, but rather anything of power in the Soviet Union. Certainly there is no institution in Russia, including the Russian Orthodox Church, that has authority over Vladimir Putin. And the next attribute, "And he shall speak great things against the God of gods." And now we are talking about God Almighty. "And shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods." The two versions are almost the same. Now I'm not sure if Putin displays his atheism in public, but when he was interviewed on the Larry King program, Larry King asked him, "Do you believe in a higher power?" And Putin said, "I believe in man." Thereby he was clearly indicating that he is an atheist, and he was proclaiming this publicly. And next, "And shall prosper till the wrath be accomplished, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished." Now the wrath or the indignation refers to the 7 years of tribulation. This passage clearly indicates that this last king of the North will survive until Armageddon. However, this last king of the North is not the Antichrist. I believe Putin is the first Gog in the book of Revelation. That is, he is the last precursor of the Antichrist. And continuing on, "And he shall make no account of the God of his fathers," and in the King James, "neither shall he regard the God of his fathers." Now the God of his fathers in this case does not refer to his own personal father or grandfather, both of whom were communists. This refers to the Russian Orthodox religion. That is the faith of his fathers regarding his national identity. And now the next passage, we do find a difference between the King James and the Douay-Rheims version. And this is a very significant difference. The Douay-Rheims says, "And he shall follow the lust of women," whereas the King James says, "not the desire of women." And I am not sure which translation is correct. Clearly, this last king of the North has some kind of disconnect with women. There are many photographs, for example, of Putin parading around without his shirt on. There is another very odd photograph of him when he lifted up the shirt of a young boy and kissed his stomach. Now, we really don't know what Putin's private life is like. He is married and he has several daughters. But I would not be surprised if the King James Version is correct and he does not follow the desire of women, but may very well be a latent homosexual. Continuing on with number 7 on our list, and he shall not regard any gods, nor regard any god. Again, a clear indication that this last king of the north is an atheist. Number 8, for he shall rise up against all things. And number 9, but he shall worship the god Maozim in his place. Now, I believe that Douay-Rheims is correct in transliterating Maozim. In other words, leaving it the exact same word as the original, because this word Maozim indicates Muslim. Now, the King James says in number 8, for he shall magnify himself above all, but in his estate he shall honor the god of forces. Now, forces is correct as far as translating Maozim, but I believe this should indicate a people, and Maozim, therefore, is better. And the Douay-Rheims continues, and a god whom his fathers knew not, he shall worship with gold and silver, etc. Now, this god whom his fathers knew not, I believe, are nuclear weapons. And he shall do this to fortify Maozim with a strange god whom he has acknowledged. Now, this strange god is nuclear power, which he will give to the Muslims. And we have seen this happen already. The King James says, thus shall he do in the strongholds with a strange god whom he shall acknowledge. Now, this is similar, and strongholds is correct as far as fortify Maozim. But the Douay-Rheims is much clearer as to what Daniel is actually talking about. The next 3 verses continue describing the relationship between the last king of the north, that is Putin, and the Muslims. In other words, between Gog and Magog. And he shall increase glory and give them power over many, and he shall divide the land gratis. Following World War III, Putin will give the Muslims a great deal of authority throughout the world. Now, the King James Version is very similar, but I think you can see that even the King James Version shows that the word should be Muslim rather than fortress. Thus shall he do in the strongholds with a strange god whom he has acknowledged, and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many. Well, this refers back to strongholds, and it doesn't seem as if the strongholds would rule many. That's why I believe Muslims should be used instead of strongholds, because they will rule many following World War III. The final 4 characteristics of the 18 characteristics of this last king of the north come in verse number 40, which is a description of World War III. And the king of the north, and of course that's Putin, shall come against him, that's Barack Obama, like a tempest with chariots and with horsemen and a great navy. The King James is almost the same. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. The whirlwind or the tempest refers to air power and nuclear warfare, and of course also a naval battle with all the many ships and the great navy. And Daniel continues, and he shall enter into the countries. Now, the 2 countries that Russia will enter into are Great Britain and the United States, and the King James Version is practically the same. And Daniel continues, and shall overflow and pass through, in the Douay-Rheims, and shall destroy and pass through. So in conclusion, I think we can see that Vladimir Putin fulfills the 18 attributes of this last king of the north. I don't think there is any other world leader who fulfills all of these qualifications better than Vladimir Putin. And if you would like more information, simply write to the address you see on your screen.